Hello and welcome to the Sky Bet League 2 playoff final preview from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. It's Mansfield Town versus Port Vale at Wembley. How did these two teams get to Wembley? Well, Mansfield, they beat Northampton by 3-1 on aggregate, and Port Vale drew 2-2 with Swindon, but won 6-5 on penalties. So let's get on with Mansfield first. They're the first team to go through. Very good first home leg. Second leg, got that clean sheet. Risso's pretty much job done the first leg.
Yeah, I've got to say, it's one of the few things we got right in the League Two semi-finals because, I mean, the finalists we didn't get right for a start, but let's be fair. The other one could have gone either way. Mansfield were really good here, and I put it down, to be fair, to Nigel Clough, a very experienced manager, set his team up very well. I put Risso as the key man, a little bit of a shot in the dark, and he was brilliant. He ran the show. He got man of the match officially in the first leg. So I'm delighted with that at least. But I really thought that first half of the first leg, Mansfield were fantastic. You could see the hangover that we talked about. We both thought Northampton would concede first because it takes so much out of you that final day. And in the end, it was just too much, wasn't it? There was no real zip about them throughout the tie. They did have a little bit of a spell once they made subs in the second half, but Mansfield thoroughly deserved to win the first leg. They were excellent in the early part of it. And to be fair, looking from the second leg's point of view, they were rock solid at the back again, only conceded one shot on target. They weren't ever in real danger after scoring the goal, And for me, it was a really professional job, well done. And maybe we see the side in seventh sneaking up. It has happened a few times recently.
Yeah, the second leg, it was once they got the goal, it was a foregone conclusion, but it was some controversy for that away leg goal. Offside? Yes or no?
It's interesting, isn't it? Let's put it that way. I think you can understand why without VAR on field that wasn't given, perhaps. It's a very difficult call, but if it were me looking at a replay, yeah, probably, to be honest, I would say so. I think you said it at the time as well. But ultimately, the good thing is it didn't affect the outcome of the tie because I don't think Northampton were going to score anyway. They had bucket loads of possession. Mansfield, as we've seen from Nigel Clough teams before, incredibly disciplined, incredibly solid. One of the things I noticed, particularly in that second leg for Mansfield, he went for a very experienced side, Nigel Clough. Left out a lot of the younger players. Matty Longstaff had been playing regularly. He was on the bench. You saw the likes of Stephen Quinn, Lucas Akins, Bowery, John Joe O'Toole, McLaughlin Perch, so many experienced heads that have played at a higher level. And to be honest, they did a really good job against the younger side in Northampton. And should we say that maybe in the first leg, Northampton not having their first choice keeper might have cost them again? Not that I think he could have done much about either of the goals, but really good performance from Mansfield, really solid in both legs, adapted to the games well, and thoroughly deserved to get through. I think it's as simple as that.
Let's go on to Port Vale. They lost their first tie in the first leg, lost 2-1 away at Swindon. That late goal from James Wilson seems to be crucial because in the second leg, they did win by a goal to nil. Obviously, that did result in a 2-2 draw and going to penalties. And obviously, you know what penalties are like, luck of the draw.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't quite luck of the draw in that one. There was some awful technique in a couple of the penalties. But I think you mentioned a great point, which is for a long time in that first leg, it looked like Swindon were going to run away with it. Harry McCurdy was obviously at his best in the first leg. Port Vale, they had shots, but they weren't hugely in the game. Though late on, James Wilson, and we talked about him at the start, having those experienced players dotted around that have played at the high level. And again, he was the man that paid dividends, scored both goals for them, one in each leg. And getting that goal early in the second leg made a difference too. But he scored at crucial times in the tie. Port Vale, they stayed in the game when they weren't at their best. And then at home, they took advantage of a big crowd. And obviously, once it goes to penalties, as you say, it's luck of the draw. I do just want to say, though, Darrell Clark returning to the sidelines, I don't know what on earth he was doing to get sent off. I mean, it was absolutely bizarre, the instant in the second leg. But look, Port Vale sneak through. That's all they'll care about. Same as Nottingham Forest. It's not about the way you do it. They will be at Wembley on Saturday. And with James Wilson, they've got a goal-scoring threat.
Yeah, looking at these two sides, how they've got on during the season, there has been a draw, a 1-1 draw in October and a 3-1 win for Port Vale. Pretty much like the other two ties in both finals. This is another one that's hard to call.
It is. And the reason I say that is because I know that you talk about the head-to-head record, but Mansfield actually had a really poor spell in the season, obviously, where they were right down in the bottom half. And they've sort of risen up the league, same as Bristol Rovers did to nick third in the end. And we've seen it before, even last year with a team like Bolton, who eventually made it up to automatic promotion. When you've got momentum, you're a hard team to stop. And we talked about the race for the League Two playoffs. We talked about the final day malarkey for third. These sides in the playoffs were all separated by 3 points. These two sides separated by 1 point. The Championship playoff final the day after separated by 2 points. It's exactly what we want as neutral football fans. They're so tight in their record. They scored the same number of goals in the regular season. There's not much in the defensive records. It's anyone's game. It's very tricky to predict. Is it another one of those that might potentially go a long way?
It certainly could. I could see Mansfield probably be a bit more disciplined than Port Vale. How do you see this game going, though?
I think it's going to be a really interesting game because Mansfield I know they've got the worst defensive record over the season of the two, but when it's mattered most, a bit like we talked about with Wycombe and their route to the League One final, they've tightened up when it's mattered towards the end of the season. And we saw against Northampton, they've got so much experience to call upon. And you wouldn't bank against that team. It's not a team that you could see crumbling under the pressure. Mansfield are going to be so strong. They've got a really level-headed manager. Everyone we've ever interviewed who's worked under him has said he's an absolutely brilliant man to work for. I can see them getting things right and turning up and being their best. Port Vale, a little bit more of a mixed bag. Obviously, they've had the situation with different managers during the season when Darryl Clark was on compassionate leave and Andy Crosby was in. But does that actually help, having two managers essentially? Because Darryl Clark, I presume, will have a touchline ban, having been sent off. And Andy Crosby is a very experienced man to take the reins. So I don't think that's going to have too much of an impact in the end. If I had to say, based on the finish to the season, Mansfield have all the momentum. Over the course of the year, Port Vale have probably been the stronger side over the whole season. But momentum's everything in football. Experience is key at Wembley. If I had to edge a team, I'd probably edge Mansfield. But the longer this game goes, with the experience they've got in the side and the older legs, I think the harder it gets for them. So if Port Vale can take it to extra time, if they can take it to penalties where they've had that experience in the semi-final, then maybe they can nick it. But I'm going to go Mansfield by the odd goal. I can see it being a very disciplined and tight game. I'm going to go for Mansfield to nick it. It's either 1-0 or 2-1. I'm going to go 2-1 because I'm a neutral and I want goals.
I don't see many goals in this game. I'm going to go by the odd goal. I will go for Mansfield to win by a 0-0. I don't see it being many chances. Half chance like that gets over the line. And I just feel like I'm swinging towards Mansfield. And those are predictions for the playoff final in League Two. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comments. And who do you think will win the final? And how do you think they'll get on next season? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football Free. And we'll see you next time.